And that's why I hope to God one day we cross paths so that I can perhaps be the first person you've ever met to look you in the eye and tell you, I don't give a damn about your pronouns. I will use whatever words I want to use. I will refer to you however I want to. If you could believe it. I will call you anything I want to. And there's not a single thing you could do about it because you have no power over me anyway. For our daily cancellation today, we turn to the Huffington Post, which for one thing still exists. That's the first bit of news. And the second is an editorial on the site, which has been making the rounds online over the past week or so. It's written by somebody named Kelsey Smoot, who's a man, I believe. Bit of a shot in the dark, I'm not sure. But he provides us with this bio. Kelsey, they, them, theirs, is a PhD candidate in American Studies. Their work and writings explore the process of identity formation at the nexus of race, gender, and sexuality. They are a cultural and gender theorist, a writer, an advocate, and a poet. Having grown up bi-coastal and spending the majority of their adult life in a state of transience, they drew from their eclectic life experiences both deep fear and great optimism regarding what people are capable of. Now, it should give you a pretty good idea about where this is headed. Though I must acknowledge some gratitude to Kelsey for exploring the nexus of race, gender, and sexuality. Very few people have the vision and courage to really dive in and study the intersection of race, gender, and sexuality. When I say very few people, I mean, it's only him and every other college student in the Western world. I mean, students in China are all becoming math geniuses and rocket scientists. Our students are all getting their PhDs in queer theory. All that to say, we certainly needed one more person to think and talk about race, gender, and sexuality. So I'm grateful he was up to the task. And he clearly applied all of this expertise while writing the HuffPost article in question titled, "If You Think My Pronouns Are Optional, We Can't Keep Being Friends." Now, I'm tempted here to simply say, okay, great, bye. But that would make this segment a little bit too short, so we'll trudge on. He wrote, quote, "Lately, I've been embroiled in what feels like constant conversations about pronouns, the wrong ones, the right ones, the preferred ones. Hint, that third category is defunct." Yes, please update your rulebook. The term preferred pronouns, which has been shoved down your throat relentlessly, is now defunct. Not only defunct, but offensive. The very people who invented the term and demanded that you use it are now demanding that you not use it because it's offensive. They've suddenly decided. Why is preferred pronoun offensive? Well, presumably because the qualifier preferred doesn't carry the weight that they want it to. It makes the pronoun sound optional. But as the title of the piece declares, pronouns are not optional. They are utterly necessary. If you don't use somebody's pronouns, you'll kill them. They will die right there on the spot. They'll shrivel up and melt away like the Wicked Witch. Pronouns are no mere preference. They are necessities like food, water, oxygen. Pronouns are the very air they breathe. This is the claim anyway, and it puts into context the rest of what we're going to read here. Continuing, as a non-binary trans person who uses they, them, theirs pronouns as my terms of address, I suppose I should be celebrating this influx of discourse on the proper usage of pronouns. Truthfully, I'm exhausted. Okay, we're going to leave aside the fact that non-binary trans makes no sense. I mean, these labels individually don't really make sense, but combined, they somehow make even less than zero sense. Also note how Kelsey declares himself to be exhausted. Common theme on the LGBT left. You remember that college student last week who said he was exhausted because I was giving a speech on campus? People who've never exerted themselves, who have lived coddled lives of unending comfort, who've never even attempted to achieve anything of significance, are somehow exhausted. Not that I doubt their exhaustion by any means. I fully believe that it's exhausting to go through life so utterly self-absorbed, to think that everything revolves around you, to constantly be on the lookout for slights and offenses, to be offended all the time by everything and everyone everywhere. This is extremely exhausting. Of that, I have no doubt. Indeed, this is one of the reasons I could never be a raging narcissist. I just don't have the energy for it. Continuing. In the 6 years since I have come out, I've witnessed the concept of pronoun inclusivity shift from fundamentally Martian to hotly contested. On the macro level, pronouns have become a cultural battlefield, an email garnish, a token signifier of righteousness for organizations who want to rebrand themselves as politically savvy and inclusive. He's right about that part. Personally, within the several of my closest relationships, the fact that I require ungendered pronouns when referring to me in the third person has become the source of deep strain and disappointment. I feel duped by some of the positive reactions from my friends and loved ones when I initially came out as trans, non-binary. In retrospect, that was the easy part. I was the only one changing. In the years since, I've come to find that I'm in constant competition with my past. For a while, I flinched when I was misgendered, but said nothing. Then I began giving gentle reminders, followed by long-winded overtures of understanding. I felt guilty and embarrassed, and made sure to emphasize that effort was all that mattered to me. Recently, though, I've begun pushing back. "You'll have to do better," is my new refrain. Now, of course, the proper response to somebody who says you'll have to do better regarding their pronouns would be words to the effect of, "Oh yeah, well, you'll have to kiss my ass, you smug little cretin." But unfortunately, Kelsey has not been given the gift of that sort of honesty. Instead, those closest to him have apparently tried to accommodate his demands and even apologize profusely for the times they slip up and accidentally use proper grammar. That's not good enough, Kelsey says. He demands absolute perfect compliance from everyone 100% of the time, or else he'll stop associating with them. Which, of course, sounds more like a promise than a threat to me. But reading a bit more here, he says, "As I think more critically about these conversations, I feel regret about the moments wherein I have avoided asking the hard questions that cut clear through the facade of language. The resulting friction from these interactions has had negative consequences in my relationships. I feel myself withdrawing from people I love, avoiding interactions that might lead to misgendering, and shrinking in conversations that once felt safe and enjoyable. Inversely, I've been told that spending time with me feels more cumbersome now." Shocking. "In addition to long-standing relationships, new connections are often marked with a similar tension regarding my pronouns. The idea of having to lose some of the people closest to me, the folks who have helped to shape me into the person I am, is devastating. However, I consider having access to me, my time, and my company to be a gift, not a given, for anyone in my sphere. I'm clear in my inherent worth as a person, despite all the ways in which society at large devalues me. To be frank, this process of change requires concerted effort. To be franker, I think that trans and non-binary people are worth the effort." Well, if I could be frank myself, Kelsey, allow me to say this. No, you are not worth the effort at all. I mean, your unbridled, untamed, unyielding narcissism has turned you into a burden, a strain on everyone you know. You're not nearly smart or interesting enough to make dealing with you and your nonsense worth that kind of effort. You're an irritating, tedious bore who compounds the problem by also being psychotically self-centered. But I'm grateful, at least, that you have so convincingly illustrated and proven a point that I've made many times in the past, which is that this whole preferred pronoun thing is nothing more than passive-aggressive manipulation, a power play by attention-starved egomaniacs like yourself. You want to be affirmed, all right, but you want to be affirmed as the center of the universe, the main character in this production called life. You demand to be affirmed as the central figure in everybody else's lives. You can't simply be around somebody, talk to them, spend time with them. You need to be constantly reminded, and you need them to constantly remind themselves that you are better and superior and more important and more interesting. That's what the pronoun game is all about. And that's why I hope to God one day we cross paths so that I can perhaps be the first person you've ever met to look you in the eye and tell you, I don't give a damn about your pronouns. I will use whatever words I want to use. I will refer to you however I want to. If you could believe it. I will call you anything I want to. And there's not a single thing you could do about it because you have no power over me anyway. Well, I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Matt Walsh Show. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right down there so you can stay up to date on all of our future content.